All right, boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all. Good morning. And yes, welcome to a very special event. Not often do we get an event like this with an author coming on board and, of course, coming in to promote. But just throwing it out there, I'm wondering if anybody has heard or read any books from Joanne Fluke. Oh!
Oh my gosh.
Joanne, I half the room just raised their hands, so this is quite fantastic. Yes, you are quite a popular person in the United States and around the world. Give a round of applause, everybody. I mean, did you know she was going to be on this cruise?
Thank you very much.
This is we throw a lot of lectures on certain cruises, and it's always nice to have a special guest come on. So Joanne, thank you for coming out on this 7-day voyage. Nobody else will get this, by the way, just you guys. Yes.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so glad all of you came because I figured the word lecture might put you off a little. I have been to some very boring, dry as dust lectures, and I want to assure all of you today that I will not give you a lecture on legumes and how they can help the body. Okay?
Joanne, first of all, we're going to go through a series of 10 top 10 questions, popular questions. You probably get asked a lot, so we'll go through that in a moment. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself coming in before our seminar, before our Q&A session.
Okay, I'm Joanne Fluke. Right now, I'm writing the Hannah Swensen series, and this little guy I brought with me, his name is Sven Swensen. He's from Sweden. Actually, I think he's from China, but we're not going to. But he is just darling, cute as can be, and he helps me promote the books. So he is promoting the one that comes out the end of February, which is, as you'll notice, all titles are definitely dessert titles for yummy things to eat. And, of course, the books contain recipes. Well, this new one is called Coconut Layer Cake Murder. And we're not murdering a cake. Don't worry. It's just a person, We're not going to worry about that. And usually the person is somebody we don't like very much. And this is a good way for me to take care of the people that I think have harmed me in my past. Yes, I do. And also for my friends, I have a friend who asked me to please kill off her ex-husband. So I did. It's in one of the books. I think it's in Plum Pudding Murder. The victim is Adrian's ex-husband. Yes, but the Hannah books are a lot of fun, and I do test all the recipes myself. I've got to tell you that. I make them at least 3 times. They have to work all 3 times, or they don't go in a Hannah book. And actually, sometimes I have to test them a few more times. Now, the coconut layer cake, I think I tested that one, I'd say a little over 2 dozen times. And I got to tell you, it works perfectly. And I also have to tell you that before I started writing this series, I weighed 99 pounds. And now you know all about me.
All right, I think we should begin. Yes, of course we have a library with no books at the moment. So I hope this is I think just to say thank you for your understanding. They have been taken away. We can order some new books. They just can't come like this. But now you got a book to read for the next couple of days. Yeah, this is Sven. Thank you for introducing him to us. It's the cousin of Stanley the Bear. Now that you're partnered up with us. So let's get on with our first question. How young were you when you first started writing the stories, writing these series of books?
Actually, I think I was in 2nd grade when I first started writing stories. Okay. And what happened is my mother was a reader. She loved to read, and she read me bedtime stories every night. And one time she read me a book, or read a book to me. See, that was Minnesota. She read me a book, right? Okay, it still comes out once in a while. I live in California now, but I'm still Minnesota at heart. And thank goodness there's no snow in California. At least you have to drive to it. Yeah. But my mother read this book to me, and it was I thought it was a really good book. It took her about a week to read it because it was long. And when she finished, she said, "Honey, how did you like the book?" And I said, "Mom, I liked it. I really did. I thought it was wonderful, but..." And she said, "What?" And I said, "But I didn't like the ending." And she said, "Well, you should write a different ending." And I said, "Can you do that?" And she said, "Well, of course you can, dear. It's not going to get published, but I will read it. I'd love to know what kind of ending you wanted." Okay, so now second grade. I'm still printing. I'm not even writing, cursive yet. And I thought, oh, I think I can do this. Well, it probably took me, I would guess, 6 to 8 weeks to print out all the pages and write, I'm sure there were at least 3.5, and write the ending that I thought should be in the book. And I gave it to her, and I was a little nervous, would she liked it? And she read it, and she said, "Oh, Joanne, I like that ending so much better." And I thought, oh, that's wonderful. And I think that's what started me wanting to be a writer. And I never, ever, ever had the nerve to ask her later in life whether she really liked my ending better. There's my answer.
I was looking at, because you kind of answered the next question. Was
I did?
how did you get your start in writing the Hannah Swensen series? So, how did you get to start with the character of Hannah Swensen? That's the one.
That is a good one. Well, when I started out writing, I wrote thrillers. At that time, they were called psychological thrillers. They were scary, really scary books. And that is what sold. And I wanted to be a published writer, so I wrote the thrillers. And, they scared me half to death. I would really like the characters, and then they'd die in horrid ways. And, it really bothered me. And I used to have nightmares. And I was married, and my husband would wake up. I'd wake up screaming, just screaming. And my husband would wake up and go, "What's wrong?" And he'd switch on the light. And I'd say, "Oh, my gosh, I think it's the book I'm writing. I had this most awful dream that somebody was chasing me and trying to kill me." And he'd say, "Oh, honey, it's okay. I tell you what, I'll leave the light on, and I'll go make you a cup of hot chocolate." Now, that was a nice man, right? Okay, so he'd go make me a cup of hot chocolate, and sometimes he'd put in a little brandy. And I would go back to sleep, and I'd sleep the rest of the night. Now, this happened, I would say 3 times during the writing of a book. And I wrote 10 of these. And each time I would wake up with a screaming nightmare, he would switch on the light, say, "Honey, what is it?" And I'd say, "It's a book again. It's this book I'm writing." And he would get up, and he'd make me hot chocolate, and it would be really, really nice. And I'd go back to sleep. Well, by book 10, he was, I'll tell you what he said. I had another screaming nightmare. He said, switches on the light. He says, "What is it?" That was a little different than "Honey, what's wrong?" right? What is it? Oh, I said, it's the book I'm writing. I just had this nightmare. Somebody was chasing me, trying to kill me. And he said, okay, I'll get up. I'll make you hot chocolate. But, honey, can't you write something else? And that's when Hannah Swensen was born. I started writing cozy mysteries.
And the cozy mystery genre, we'll go through later, has become very popular with a lot of our readers today, as a lot of you witnessed who put their hands up. But in that, I guess your stories or your sleuth, Hannah Swensen has a cat named Moisha, who was more than a bit eccentric, as many of your readers would know. What made you think about putting a cat as one of the characters in the Hannah Swensen mysteries? Do you have a cat yourself, personally?
Oh, yes. Yes, I still have half a cat. Now, that sounds weird. I know. But this is Cleo, is my half a cat. And don't ask me which half, because I'm not sure. But I share Cleo with my neighbor. I have 2 dogs. And one is medium size and one is small. And so they each have beds, and the small dog has a small bed, and the medium-sized dog has a medium-sized bed. Okay. Well, generally, the small dog ends up in the medium-sized bed, and the medium-sized dog ends up in the small bed, kind of hunched over. Okay, so that's what happens in my office when I'm writing. Now, in the morning, I'll come out, I'll open the dog door for my 2 dogs. And the dogs will go out, and when they come in, Cleo is with them. Cleo's my neighbor Gina's cat. She's a white cat, beautiful cat. She will jump the fence because Gina goes off to work every morning. And I guess she's lonely, so she comes and jumps my fence and comes in the dog door with the dogs. And generally, I don't pay any attention. I've seen them do it a couple times, but the way I discovered Cleo is in the house is I'll be working at my computer, and I'll be clicking away, writing something or other, and all of a sudden, my dogs snore. I'll hear my little dog snoring, and I'll hear the medium-sized dog snoring, and then I'll hear this tiny little beep, 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 and it's Cleo snoring. And she comes and she sleeps with whichever dog is in the medium-sized bed. She does not play favorites. She loves them all. But Cleo can be, Gina's told me stories about Cleo, can be a real rascal. So I guess she has killed Gina's vacuum cleaner 5 or 6 times. That she hates it. She hates the sound. And Gina will be vacuuming her rug, and Cleo will go like this with her claws and just ruin the vacuum cleaner. So Gina spends a lot of money on new vacuum cleaners, and she has not yet asked me if I want to keep Cleo full time. But I suspect that day may be coming. But that's why the cat's on there. And I didn't tell you the definition of cozy mysteries. This is something when I first started, when I went from the thrillers, psychological thrillers, to cozy mysteries, my editor, I had the same editor, my editor said, would you like to write cozy mysteries? And I said, well, what are cozy mysteries? I did not know. And he said, oh, well, they're regular mysteries, there's a murder, and you have a sleuth, an amateur sleuth, that solves the murder. But the difference is, a cozy mystery, you never really see the murder. It is no blood and guts. Nothing like that. He said, it is not like the thrillers. I go, oh, good. I was happy about that. And he said, and they're good for young people to read because there are no blatant sexual scenes, which is good. Okay, I didn't know if I could write those anyway. So then he said, there's one third thing that you have to be careful of. And I said, what? And he said, there is no naughty language. I said, no what? He said, no naughty language. You know, swearing. And I said, oh, okay, I'm fine with that. So I started writing the cozies.
The cozy mystery book. So that's what's made you really popular. So I guess that's what you got into getting into this. So how many, just going out of the question, how many books, novels have you written so far up to this day?
Actually, all of them?
All of them.
Oh, because I wrote some other things too in there. You know, I wrote some humor, and I wrote a couple of romances that didn't go over very well. I guess I'm not very romantic. And no, a couple, several. I tried my hand at several genres, and now I've found it. I think I've found it. But altogether, I think I've written over 50 books.
Wow.
In my life. Hey, I'm old. I mean, in my lifetime, yeah.
How many are you into the cozy mystery novels right now?
Well, the only cozies I've ever written are Hannah's.
Yeah.
And the one that's coming out end of February is book 28. This is a long-lived series, and I'm so happy about it.
I know we are too. And for those just getting involved, this is as you can tell, she's very popular with our readers. Now, how long does it actually take you to write a novel, to complete a book? That's always a popular question with the authors.
That's a toughie because there are down times. I would say that it takes me a little, if I really work full speed and I don't run into any snags, and there are snags, it probably takes me 3 months to do a first draft of the book. And the book in page count is, I'd say 350 double-spaced pages on the computer. So, yeah, a little over 3 months. But then it goes to New York to my editor. Luckily, it goes electronically. I don't have to print it out and, do all that. We used to have to. But it goes to New York, and he has to edit it. And he can take his time with that. It can be as long as a month. Then it comes back to me, and I read over his edits. And I have to decide, well, I pick my battles, right? I mean, you have to with your editor. So, and I like him. He's a good guy. But every once in a while, he'll get a little stuffy. And I say, no, that's a good joke. Leave it in. So I do pick my battles. And other times, he's absolutely right. And I'll say, yep, you're right. I went on too long on that paragraph. Good for you for catching me. Yeah, he knows my style, and he catches when I make mistakes. But then when I correct it and take the edits that I want and type them in, I send it back to New York, and it goes to the production department. And Robin at the production department sends it to a copy editor. Now, copy editors, I think, are the bane of most writers' existence. Copy editors are nitpicky. Copy editors are Mrs. Grundy, who taught definitely Latin and grammar all her life, has become a copy editor.
Anybody out there copy editors? No, okay, no.
Oh gosh, I hope not, because I'm planning to kill one off someday. No, so Mrs. Grundy does her edits, and I can say I don't agree, which is good. So I will go through, I have to go through every single one, and she corrects one. Every once in a while, she's absolutely right on spelling. I had one copy editor. We called her, other people had had her too. Her, I don't know if it was a him or a her. I can't really say, but I say her. Okay. Other writers that I met at conventions had the same copy editor. We called her the semicolon queen. Oh yeah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, a semicolon doesn't really have a place in fiction. When I'm reading and I come across a semicolon and it's a great scene that's flowing and I'm all excited about finishing the scene and finding out what happens, and I run into a semicolon, it stops me cold. So, we kind of hated that. But copy editors, they take at least a month to do it too. So here we are. We're already, what are we, 5 months? Yeah. Okay, so then it comes back to me and I work on it, and it takes me a while because I have to revise. Then it goes back to production. And then it goes to a proofreader. Now, unfortunately, the proofreader has the final word, which kind of scares me sometimes. Okay, anybody here from Minnesota? No?
We got a couple hands are up.
Okay,
Yep.
Okay. What is the name of the hockey team in Minnesota? The Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the name of the basketball team?
Timberwolves.
Okay, I had the Wild down because I looked it up. I have since forgotten. When I lived in Minnesota, it was the North Stars, believe it or not. Okay, so the Wild. I used the Wild. I used the correct name. The copy editor changed it. Yeah, well, the guy I had who accepted a job with the Wild was the hockey coach, okay? She changed the name to the Timberwolves because she liked it better. Well, now, what is a hockey coach doing with a basketball team, Oh, my gosh, guys, I got letters. You wouldn't believe the emails I got. I was so embarrassed, but I didn't do it. But anyway, so now we're approaching 6-7 months. Yeah, it takes that long. And then you have to do all the promotion for it and everything. So, a year. I have written 2 books in a year. This year I'm doing 2 books, but that's only because they want a little book. I do these little Christmas books, which I like. It's Hannah and the crew, but they go back in time because I don't want to make the story go on until the next big Hannah book, because then I got room. But anyway, that's the schedule.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the process, the steps for that, that's, I think a lot of us didn't know. So thank you for explaining on the novel itself. All right, let's go back here to our series of questions. So, yeah, I mean, as you've been hearing, Joanne, for her cozy mystery novels, our title itself is based on dessert. So what made you decide to start putting the recipes into your cozy mysteries? Like all these, there's a different approach to your novels.
I started in doing that because I had all these recipes. And I wanted, all my life I've wanted to write a cookbook. But I don't have the background. I've never been to a fancy cookie school in Paris, and I've never owned a restaurant. And so, or a bakery or anything like that. So I don't have the background to give me an in to write a cookbook. So, I was writing, I was doing the psychological thrillers, and when my editor said, "Will you try your hand at cozy mysteries?" I said, "Oh, could I put recipes in there?" And he said, "Well, sure, why not?" Well, that was that. I was in heaven. I had all these recipes, and I think it was 23 shoeboxes full of recipes in the corner of my kitchen. And they were stacked up. Oh, let me tell you. And washing the floor was a real treat for me But in the corner of my kitchen were all these recipes. They were written on little scraps of paper, and some of them were on recipe cards, the old-fashioned cards you used to get, and you'd handwrite recipes. Some of them were on there, and some were on the back of old bills. One of my recipes in one of the first books was I think it was the one for chocolate chip crunch cookies. Oh yeah, I love those things. And it was written on the back of an old gas bill. And I was really hoping that the bill had been paid. Then I realized it was over 20 years old, so I thought they weren't coming after me, so it's okay. Yeah, but so I did. I used some of those recipes in the first book, and people liked it. They wrote in, "Oh, this is fun. I made them molasses crackles, and my kids loved them, and I made this and that." And I thought that was wonderful. So I continued with the recipes. That's why I do it.
So Hannah Swensen is in the novel, she's the owner of a bakery in a small town. So kind of a lot of the authors always relate to the main character in the novels. So did you grow up yourself baking, and anybody teach you to bake? I know you probably did. You had 22 shoe boxes of recipes.
Oh, yes.
So who taught you to do all this baking?
My mother, my grandmother, and my aunts. I mean, it was wonderful. My mother had 2 sisters, and they taught me to bake. And they would come over, and we would all bake. And my grandmother grew up. Well, she didn't grow up. She 11 years old. She went to work in a home up in northern Minnesota, because they did that in those days. And she became something called a pie girl. And she was the one that made all the pie crust in this house. And they sent her to school. She could go to school. She spoke English and rather well, but she learned better English, and she learned to read English, which she didn't when she came here. And she was the pie girl. And so she knew all these recipes, but of course, she hadn't written them down. So my mom said to me, Gammy's getting old. And when I think I'm probably outlived how old she was at the time. Okay, but Gammy's getting old. We really ought to write down a recipe. So we tried to figure out how to do this. And my mother said, okay, I'll tell you what. She bakes by the seat of her pants. She really did. I mean, she was just so... she knew. I said, Gammy, how much flour do you put in there? She said, enough. They do that. And then my mom would say, how much sugar? And Gammy would say, well, enough to make it sweet. So this was not helping us. This was not helping us at all. And not only that, Gammy did not measure. She had a big canister for the flour, and she'd have it up on the table, and it would be time to put in the flour, and she'd go like this with her hand and dump it in. Well, what was that, And then she'd stir, and, oh, not enough. So she, until there was enough. So my mother got ready with a big measuring cup. And Gammy'd say, oh, I'll put in the flour. And she'd go like this, and my mother would go, in here. And she'd do that. My mother would go, Joanne, quarter cup. That would go in, So that's how we got our recipes. So that's who taught me.
That really answered the next question. This begs the question of having the titles all about the desserts. So interesting titles you've been having for these books. Now, I know you've had quite a few of the Hannah Swensen mysteries become New York Times bestseller now, everybody. So it's no joke. What an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
So what do you think makes the cozy mystery genre so popular? I know you touched upon earlier that everybody, all age, can read. We got a few kids here already, some younger readers. So what else is it that allows the readers to just be so comfortable with it?
Well, in this day and age, everybody has busy schedules. You know, there are so many things to do during the day. And there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress out there. I mean, there's politics. There's if you're in Minnesota, winter weather. There's all sorts of things. You're in California, it's the wildfires. I know that. And there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on people. And they just need to relax and get away to a simpler, nicer environment. Now, mind you, there are murders in these books, but, you know, there are probably some people you've thought about harming in some way. Didn't I say that nicely? I'm so proud of myself. Yes, but, you know, these are simpler, nicer books. Lake Eden, for instance, is the town that it's beautiful. It's right by a lake in Minnesota, centrally located, with really nice people, picturesque buildings and homes and shops, and everybody is so nice, and there really isn't any crime to speak of. You know, there is no vandalism, no carjackings, no burglaries, but there is a murder in every book. Lake Eden is the murder capital of the world. And so I would really, thank goodness Lake Eden is imaginary. It lives up here in my head because there is no real Lake Eden. People ask me, and I say, you don't want to go there. If there was a real Lake Eden, you know what happens to strangers once in a while. You know, this would not be my place for a vacation, but it's a lot of fun to write about.
We got a question over here.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some Q&A very soon. We got a couple more to go through. How old is Hannah?
Oh, that's a hard one because Lake Eden time is different than our years, and this is on purpose, or Hannah would be about 80 by now, and she couldn't run away from the killer anymore. Maybe, so no. Lake Eden time is Hannah kind of stays. Well, it generally takes 4 or 5 books to get through a year.
Okay.
So we never really say, we just say she's 30 plus because it's better. I mean, it's really hard it would be hard for me to deal with a much older sleuth. Remind me of myself, I don't like that. But no, it would be, and what I like about Hannah is she is not necessarily beautiful. You know, you see all these sleuths on TV, and they are gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. I shouldn't say drop dead. Okay, gorgeous actresses that play these sleuths on TV. Oh my, I mean, nobody has ever looked like that I've seen that's really been in law enforcement, you know. Or if they're few and far between, you know. And so Hannah she's not gorgeous. And she's a little overweight. Well, maybe a little more than a little overweight, but she's a regular person. I wanted to write a real person. You know, I would love to have Hannah as a friend. I tried to describe somebody I would love to have as a friend. And I have plenty of good friends, but I mean, I would like Hannah to be added to that group.
Wow. Yeah, and a lot of readers would agree. Several books, I don't know if anybody knows this, but several of her, Joanne's book, the Hannah Swensen series, have been actually made into movies and they continue to air on the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channels. So again, another achievement in Joanne's career, everybody.
Thank you. I did not write the screenplays. I just want to tell you that. Okay.
Yeah, so that was what I get into. Was the Hollywood experience different than you thought it would be, or was it just about what you expected as that transition went from paper into the on-screen?
It was what I expected, but only because I was living in California at the time. And my husband was a TV writer. He did not write the scripts either for the Hannah movies, but but he wrote scripts, and I had read scripts, and I knew that even like the movie scripts that people they it's called adaptation. They adapt a book. They're not the same as the book. Of course not, because otherwise you would just be reprinting the book, That would be dumb. So no, they're totally different. They have to be filmic. They have to be exciting, more exciting sometimes. And there has to be, you can't have things in there that are hard for them to film. So you're not probably ever going to get in underwater. There's a scene with Hannah underwater in a middle of a lily garden, water lily garden, of course. And they would never shoot that because it costs too much money, So there are constraints that way. And I did not expect perfection. A lot of writers, oh, no, they cast the wrong person for this. They did this wrong. Well, a lot of people objected to Allison when she first played Hannah because she's blonde. But Hannah has red hair, they say. And I go, wait, this is the movie Hannah. The movie Hannah is totally different than our Hannah. Just enjoy her for what she is. And the movies were good. I liked them. I had a good time with them. So I did not expect them to be the same. If I had, I probably would have been very disappointed, But I knew better.
But still, that's. I think once your novels and your books as an author, you see it on screen, you made it. You made it. Speaking of making it, what we're finished here, but just some popular questions, especially when meeting authors, getting into your mind a little bit, and especially successful authors. When do you find yourself the most productive when you're writing your novels, when you're writing your books? When do you find you get to engage the best and be creative? Any certain practices that you do to delve in?
Oh, yes. Yeah, a couple things. Number one, I get up at 4 a.m. Yeah, I do this because of the telephone solicitors. It drive me nuts. I mean, I got a call the other day from Forest Lawn Cemetery who wanted to know if I wanted to buy a grave plot. And I said, oh, how nice of you to call. I'm really glad you did, but you see, we don't plan to die. And I heard this choked laugh and the phone went dead. I mean, she hung up. But I get all these calls and they drive me crazy. And there's something about a ringing phone that I have to answer. It just drives me crazy because it could be somebody I know, So, yeah. So I do get up early, and I do my most productive work early before the sun comes up. And on a cruise, I don't necessarily get up that early.
We can all agree to that.
Yeah, but that's my most productive, I think. Also, there's a trick I use. Are any of you interested in writing a novel?
We got people. Yeah, we got a few hands up already.
Okay, here's a trick for you. All right, I'll give you two. One is read. Everything you can get your hands on. Just read. Keep 2 notebooks. On the cover, write yes for one and write no for the other. If there is something that you really like that you read, something the author did, like a description or something like that, write it in the yes book because you like that. Ooh, she described the day, the time, what he was wearing, she set the scene, right? That goes in the yes book. If you're reading a book, this drives me absolutely bananas. If you're reading a book and the character names are too much the same, Mary, Marion, Mary Kay, Oh, come on. You know, this just drives me crazy. So, watch that one. Write that in a notebook. You know, don't make the names too similar because people, when they read, sometimes they read fast and they kind of go over it. Wait a minute. Who was that did that? You know? I mean, that's a thing that gets me about some of the Russian writers that I wrote, or that I wrote. I wish. Some of the Russian writers that I had to read for my literature classes, right? They would have all these diminutives. They'd refer to people by 6 different names, and I had to keep a list. Yeah, when you're reading Tolstoy or something, oh my gosh, it'll really get to you. So, do that. Okay, so you got your yes and no notebooks. Then the other thing. This is going to sound crazy. Okay, the other thing is when you're writing, you're really on a tear. You're really going at it. You have got the scene. You know exactly what's going to happen. You're ready to finish that chapter. Do not finish it. The reason you don't finish that chapter, you leave like 2 or 3 paragraphs from the end. You know what's going to happen. You know exactly what's going there. Don't finish, because if you do finish in the morning, you start with a perfectly blank chapter, and it's harder to start a new chapter that way. But if you go back in the morning and you write those 3 paragraphs, because you'll remember them, you know what they are, then you're flowing again, and you could just go right on to the next chapter. That one works.
Gee, what a great question. I thought that myself. I like the practices of successful people is always what really interests a lot of people. So, Joanne, thank you. We're not finished yet, but we're going to throw it out to the audience now, especially to a lot of your readers. And yeah, we got plenty of time. So just I'll repeat your question. We got a lady in the blue here. Tell us your name and where you're from. So we got Bonnie from Tucson, Arizona. And the question is? You know what? I'm going to come here with a mic. I think it'd be a lot better so everybody can hear us. Here we go.
When you were talking about aging your character, how do you handle the ages of her children or other people changing ages during your book?
They age the same way that Hannah does. Lake Eden time.
So
If generally my books are set at different times of year in Minnesota. You can do it at different times. Like, I will have a Christmas book, and then, well, first I'll have a Thanksgiving book, then I'll have a Christmas book. Then sometimes I will have a Valentine's Day book, and sometimes I will have I don't know, St. Pat's Day, whatever, Easter. That way I can get like 4 or 5 books in one cycle, 1 year. And like, for instance, Hannah's sister Andrea has 2 children, Tracy and Bethy, and they age the same as Hannah. If Hannah doesn't get through a whole year, neither do they. Tracy's still in 2nd grade, It's just, that's the way I handle it. Everybody ages the same.
Right. Question behind? Yeah, go ahead.
Barbara, and I'm from Idaho.
Into the microphone.
Okay. I'm Barbara, and I'm from Idaho. Being on the cruise today, have you thought of bringing the whole family on a cruise and having a mystery happen on the cruise?
I have. I definitely have. Hannah has been on a cruise, but only, yes, if you haven't gotten as far as Hannah's rather unfortunate marriage in this series, that was a honeymoon cruise she was on. And I did the Mexican run. Gee, I wonder why, huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, the whole family. Oh. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think they could all get away at once. I mean, I would. I told my editor, I thought he was going to die when I said this. I said, okay, the last book in the series. He goes, you're not thinking about the last book, are you? And I said, no, I'm not. But the last book in the series, I'm thinking about a winter book, and Hannah and Mike and Norman go out in a blizzard and have to stay in a cabin in the woods for a week. And he said, you wouldn't. And I said, you're right, I wouldn't. But I mean, it was fun telling you. Okay.
I'm Nicholas from Washington, D.C., USA. What computer program do you use to write your books?
Oh, I use Word. It's called Word. Yeah.
It's Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's software, and it's called Word, I think, or Microsoft Word. Yes, that's what I use.
I have actually written 2 books. It's hard work. I'll get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I become obsessed with this. But I did not choose a good editor and paid fair. It's expensive to start out writing a book until maybe, like you get more books that are bought. But I found, how do you choose and know a good editor, or can you? At what point do you fire your editor after you've already paid him $1,500? By the way, I'm Hillary from Canada.
Okay, you are doing it freelance. See, I didn't. I went through a publisher. I wrote an outline and the first chapter of a book. Then I found an agent. And the agent sold it to a publisher. And that publisher assigned me to an editor. I did not pay the editor. So I didn't have that problem. I don't know what you do if you're freelance. But you wrote a whole book first? You don't have to.
He was editing during my writing.
Well, you know what you can do? I don't know how to fire one. I guess you just say, you're fired. But you probably wouldn't get your money back.
I didn't.
You know, that would be tough. I'm not sure. Anybody had that problem in the past? I wish I could help you. I don't know.
I got a couple more. I got one on the top. I'll come to you after. I'll make my way around. Hold on. One of our juniors, cruisers. Here you go.
You're going to have a big lunch today, Marcus. You are running.
Hi, I'm Winnie from New York. And I was just wondering, when you're writing a book, the plot twist, is it better to usually have it straightforward or kind of throw a curveball at the end? Because I've been reading a lot of Hemingway, and a lot of the times in the end, he starts in one place and ends in the same place. And I've noticed in a lot of screenplays and the way they write the dramas, they'll use the same location in the beginning of the show or the book and in the end. So how do you make that work? Like, what's the best way to tie that all together?
Well, it helps. Okay, if you want to do that, if you want to use the same location, it would help if you wrote a book that started, for instance, like mine always, they start in like Eden ended. Well, most of the time. Okay, but if you want to do that, like with the TV stuff, you start at the precinct if you're a hero or heroine is a cop, and you end there when the murder's solved if you're writing a mystery. I don't think you have to do that, but you have to make sure that you wind things up. If it's a standalone book, which means you're not doing a continuous thing, like mine is a series, but if you're not writing a series, then and it's a standalone, then you have to tie up all the loose ends, because people will feel very dissatisfied if you introduce a character and give that character a problem and don't either solve the problem or let everyone know that it can't be solved. You have to tie up loose ends. Gee, that's all I can tell you on that one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Got one over here. Got a couple on this side. I'll come to you after. This gentleman. Yep.
Yes, my name is Henry. I'm from Boston. My question is, in your thought process on writing a book, how much does it change? I assume you have a beginning and an ending in mind when you start writing it. How much does it change as you're writing it, or does it change at all?
Oh, mine changes a lot sometimes. Sometimes I do write continuing characters, which means I know those people pretty darn well. I'd better, and sometimes in my outline, because I do outline, in my outline, I will have one of the characters doing something a little unusual. And if it's something that character would never do, it won't work. So I'll be writing away, and I want to have this character throw a punch at another character, say beat up somebody. And it's Norman. Let's pretend it's Norman, who's a good guy, right? He's going to punch out somebody. Norman wouldn't do that, not unless he were protecting Hannah or something like that. But he wouldn't do it. And I couldn't make him do it and have it work, have it seem real. Everybody go, he wouldn't do that, I mean, if you know the characters, sometimes that's character-driven writing, and that is what I do. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we got another one over here. I'm Vic from Southern California. Two questions. One, you said read and read a lot.
Yes.
What do you like to read? And two, original. How do you stay original with each book, in the sense, how do you find the plots? How do you build on them? I mean, how do you find a new plot for theme for each story?
Okay. What I like to read, I don't generally read mysteries, which means I won't rip off anybody else's plot, which is a possibility, because you forget. If you read enough, you forget. It seems like, oh, that's a wonderful idea, I'll do that. And you don't remember that you got it 5 years ago by reading a book. You just don't remember it. So, yeah, I will read something that has nothing to do with mysteries. That's one way that you can keep from doing that. And I forgot your second question. I'm sorry. What was the second one?
How do you stay original, meaning getting new ideas? I need new ideas for the murder sometimes. And what I will do is I will listen to the news a lot. Because believe me, and I will get ideas from that. Like if there is, for instance, a weatherman I don't like on there. No, I don't mean kill him off. But I mean, there's a weatherman I don't like. I'll think, whoa, that's a good character. I'm going to put him in there somewhere. He doesn't necessarily have to get killed. But, I watch the news and read the news. So that will give me ideas for murders and other things. I just think, and sometimes I'll dream a book, and I just, one time I thought, I dreamt this wonderful book, and I if I could just remember it, and I thought, oh, you dummy, put a pen and a notebook by the side of the bed, because when you wake up, you write it down. Oh, okay, so I tried that.
And when I got up in the morning, I had something written down. And what it said was, jogging through an hourglass. What? That really, honestly, that's what it said. And I thought, okay, forget that idea. Sometimes your ideas just don't work. But do outline, and if you read the outline and it seems to work, then your book will probably work.
I got I got time for a couple more. I got one over here and down in the front. So let me just do this one, and I'll come down to the front row, and that's it.
I'm Barb, and I grew up in Minnesota.
Aha.
And I'm assuming Hannah Hansen is Scandinavian?
Hannah Swensen.
Swensen, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So what does your Scandinavian heritage come in?
Oh, just a little. I mean, just a little. I mean, my family's all over the place. I can't even name all the different. We're mongrels, you know. Really, we are. Or what do you call dogs? Mutt. We're mutts. Yeah, definitely. No, my dad was Scots-Irish. Mom had a little Scandinavian, a little German, and a little English. I mean, all these different nationalities. So it really, I don't belong to any one group, but I grew up in small town Minnesota. And when you grow up in small town Minnesota, you meet everybody. And a lot of people are Scandinavian. And a lot of people are Polish. And a lot of people are I can't even think, but German, yeah. I mean, you just meet all these people, and then you get to know, some of them had accents when I was there. So you get to know where they're from, and it's interesting. So, yeah, that's. I'm not really Scandinavian, but I do have some. Yeah, I figure, well, when this was natural. Yes, yeah, as Hillary Clinton said, I've been dyeing my hair for years. I got a kick. That was one funny line. I mean, really. Maybe the only one, but there was a funny line.
Joanne, we got one more question down in front, and then we're going to finish off here.
I'm Molly from Redondo Beach, California. Mm-hmm. And you said you like to read, but not mysteries. So what do you like to read?
Sometimes I'll read biographies. Sometimes I'll go back and read things that I read a long time ago. I kind of like to go back in time sometimes. Other times there's something I missed. Also, you know, I've got grandkids, so I read kid books, you know, because I will read to them. And my son reads science fiction. I'm not a big science fiction fan, but I like Nora Roberts' series where she writes, I don't know, what does she write? Rob. JD, yeah. I liked that one. I thought that was innovative at the time. You know, I haven't read one for a while, but I did. I read 5 or 6 of them, and those were good. I can't even think. I do read a friend's book. I have a friend that writes cozy mysteries, Laura Levine, and oh yeah, ha. No, Laura and I have been friends for years, and I read her books, and but it's okay because I don't have to steal the plot. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much what I read. Cereal boxes occasionally, you know.
Joanne, now, of course, for a lot of our guests right here who's interested in reading your books, one of the, I think, the popular questions, if you let there, one lady wanted to ask, do you have to read it in order, or can we just choose at any point of the...
You do not have to read them in order. You do not have to. A lot of people like to. The first one is Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, if you want to start at the beginning. The story does progress, but each one kind of ends okay. I did a couple with a cliffhanger, About actually 5 of them, I think, with a cliffhanger on the end, which means, oh my gosh, when is the next book coming out, right? But no, that you don't have to read them in order. Like the one that I gave you, that's practically a standalone. You could read that. That's
it. Is there any social media platforms we can follow you? Instagram, Facebook?
Yes, I am on Facebook. It is, okay, my Facebook is Joanne Fluke, JoannneFluke, followed by author. Now, there is another Joanne Fluke, and it says authority.
Oh.
This is a smoking advocate. That is not me. I just want to make sure if you get the wrong one, because sometimes it'll go to that one. Don't do authority. That's not me. I'm author.
So Joanne Fluke, author on Facebook.
Yeah. And I have a website.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's www.joannefluke.com.
And that's it.
Yeah, so it's easy.
Where can we find material about being? Are you on Amazon? Can we find you about certain books stores?
Oh yeah, all the bookstores pretty much. Barnes and Noble carries them, Amazon carries them. You can get them for Kindle. They're all over the place. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Just search up Joanne Fluke. Ladies and gentlemen, again, a rare treat for us to have on this cruise. Any cruises, having a New York Times bestselling author, over 50 books, 28 with a series. Joanne Fluke, thank you so much. And you'll be around, of course, for the next couple days. I'm sure, Joanne, if you see you around, make sure to come say hello. So we continue with this kind of series. It's really cool to have these people. Brett and Sarah are doing a magic workshop tomorrow. We got our bridge officer coming down to do a navigational talk. So thank you so much.
And I got one more thing.
And one more thing for Joanne. Yeah.
One more thing. Okay. Sven, if you are interested in seeing more of Sven, on Facebook, there is a little album of Sven doing various things to help Joanne bake. So, look that up. Kids will appreciate that, I think. But that's it.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for coming out this afternoon and in the morning.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.